Hi, thanks for joining me for another video at My Little Pretty Crafts. Today we're going to be using the Petal Potpourri stamp set as well as the Celebration A Happy Thing. And we're going to be making a card that's a really happy, fun friendship card. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video, and if you like this one, give it a big thumbs up so YouTube knows that you'd like to see more. So let's get started. So here's our card for today, a really bright and cheery friendship card that I think highlights a number of the products that are coming out in the Occasions catalog. We'll be using the Petal Potpourri stamp set as well as a sentiment from A Happy Thing, which is a celebration free with a $50 purchase set, as well as the new Irresistibly Yours paper. Again, another celebration gift. This stuff is awesome. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's printed with a little bit of a shinier printing. I don't know what you would call it, but it's really great for resist techniques, which we're going to be doing today. So our card base is just a basic black standard size card, 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, cut in half and scored. And then we'll take a slightly smaller piece. This is 4 by 5.25 of the striped Irresistibly Yours paper. Here I've got a little bit of craft sheet that I've cut up to make it easier to blend. And so what we're going to do is take a little blending tool and some Daffodil Delight, and we're just going to blend right on. And as you can start to see, the part of the paper that's printed is resisting the ink. So we're left with this really cool kind of gradient effect. And you can really do however you want this blending. You could make it a little more distressed looking. You could cover the entire thing really uniformly. Okay, I really like the look of that. It's not completely uniform, so it gives a little bit more interest to the card. So we can put away our blending supplies, and we can set this aside for now. Now we're going to do our stamping. I've already pre-mounted this. It's kind of like a daffodil-y looking flower here from the stamp set. Pre-mounted that as well as this flower center. So we'll use Smoky Slate, and I have this because I'm going to be stamping off. I don't want the flowers to be too dark gray. I just wanted to kind of give the illusion of the whitish flower, and I really like the look of the gray and the yellow together. So we'll be using the coordinating punch to punch these out. And so we'll stamp off, and then when you stamp on your paper, you want to make sure the larger petal is facing up. It's easier to punch out that way. We'll be stamping 5 of these. So now we're done with the Smoky Slate, and we'll move on to the Daffodil Delight to stamp the flower centers. And we'll be using the coordinating 7/8 inch scallop punch for that. And let's punch them out. You'll want to turn your punch over. It's just much easier to see that way. You can line up the image just exactly where you'd like it. And see, since we punched these with the larger petal facing up, it's much easier to punch these out. If you happen to stamp it so that it doesn't line up perfectly, you can just usually trim around the paper and it will fit a little bit better into your punch. And now let's punch out the centers. Now that we have all of our flowers punched, we can go ahead and assemble them really quickly. I just put a dimensional on the back of each of the flower centers and then pop those right onto the flower. And we will also use some dimensionals to pop up one of the flowers on the card front. So now we can work on our leaves. We'll set these aside. For the leaves, you'll want some green cardstock. I think this is Pear Pizzazz, and you're going to take the flower punch and punch out 2, and then this card we might need 3 actually. So here's our scoreboard, and what we're going to do is score the petals from the center of the larger petal all the way down and then across. And this will help give our flowers a little bit more dimension. It can be a little bit tricky to line it up, but that's okay. And now we'll just take some scissors and trim out our leaves. So to do that, I just go in between the large scored petal and the smaller one and just cut toward the center in a petal shape. Sorry, in a leaf shape. And here we are. Leaves are all trimmed out. And so now you can see that we have that little score line, and we can just kind of crease the paper, fold right along there, and it helps to give the leaf a little bit more dimension. So now we have all of our leaves here, and we can adhere them to our flowers. I just happen to have some Fast Fuse. It's the same, this is Tombow Extreme, but Fast Fuse is the same product that Stampin' Up! Sells. And so what you're going to want to do is just adhere a little bit of the tape runner and then use a check mark motion. Whoops, looks like I need, there we go. That will help the runner to break off cleanly. So now we can adhere the leaves to the flowers, and we did 8. You could do more leaves if you like, but I did 8, so some of the flowers will only have 1 leaf, and that's okay because we're layering up quite a bit. So now that all of our flowers are assembled, we'll go ahead and work on the rest of the card. So now we can work on our sentiment, and I'm using this Our Friendship is a Very Happy Thing from the free celebration set called A Happy Thing. And what I'm going to be doing is heat embossing on a scrap piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock. So I have a powder tool here that I use just to prevent the embossing powder from sticking anywhere I don't want it to. You could use some black heat embossing powder with Versamark. Since this is such a small and intricate sentiment, I really think that it would be better to do a black ink with clear heat embossing, so that's what we'll do today. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black, which is a pigment ink that embosses really well. And it doesn't matter too much whether this is straight because we're going to be trimming it out. Now we'll take my clear embossing powder. For the embossing powders that I use the most, I keep them in these sandwich containers. It's just much easier to, instead of getting a scrap piece of paper and then trying to funnel it back into a little bottle, this works really, really well for me. So now we will take the heat tool. I like to let it heat up for a second before trying to emboss. It helps prevent the paper from curling. So here we go. So here's our sentiment. I'm going to just trim it out into a little bit of a strip with an angled end. And now we can assemble. So let's bring in all of our pieces. We have our sentiment, we have our card base here. We have our yellow panel. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the card first so that I don't have any slipping around when I try to maneuver all of the flower pieces into the right spot.